Aloha and welcome to Mystery, Mystics, and Metaphysics. My name is Geralyn St Joseph, and I'm a psychic intuitive. I will be your host today. Today, we're talking about being an empath and having basically a toolkit that you can utilize so that life is a little easier because it's not easy being an empath. First question is, what the heck is an empath? An empath is someone who can feel other people's emotions. To a certain extent, everyone has this ability. So, having empathy is something that 99% of people have. You don't have it, I believe it's a psychopath, doesn't have the part in their brain that regulates that. We've also found the part in the brain that controls empathy in other mammals like dogs, monkeys, dolphins. And there is a belief that as they keep looking, we probably will find this same part of the brain that acts and reacts to other people's suffering and emotions to be very similar amongst different animal groups. First, they thought it was only mammals. I believe there have been some tests with birds, and that birds also have the ability to empathize, to feel what others are feeling. So the difference between just simply empathizing with someone and being empathetic and being a true empath or being empathic is the range that you have and the distance that it can go and what you need in order to feel that. So generally what the belief is that when you see someone else in pain or going through something, that you then pick up what they're feeling so you can show empathy to them. Fear, anger, sadness, joy, all of those things. We mirror them back to one another. And we can feel it in our own bodies because that helps us, being a communal animal, it helps us to work with one another. The difference between that and actually being an empath is that as an empath, you don't need to see that other person. You don't need to hear their story in order to feel empathy for them or to feel what they're feeling. What happens is, depending on how honed you are, you could just pick up randomly on people around you, whether they're expressing anything or not. You might hear a name and immediately you'll know what they're feeling. You may have certain members of your family that you can feel all the time. I was that way with my dad. My father and I always knew if the other was in any kind of distress or if we were sick. Used to aggravate my mother. I would tell her, Daddy's on his way home from work. And she'd be like, No, he's not. I'm like, Yeah, he is. He doesn't feel good. And Mommy'd be like, No, he's not. And then he would walk in the door and she'd be like, Stop doing that. It's creepy. So, but that's the type of thing that happens when you're an empath. Some of the bonuses to being an empath is it's much easier to tell if someone is lying to you. And it is easier for you to ascertain the way people are truly feeling versus what you think they're feeling. So when you're a true empath, you're feeling what's really there, not necessarily what they're just showing to everybody. So when somebody's got that big smile on their face, but inside they're dying, you feel that dying. Um, Now, that's not to say that if you're an empath, that you will never be fooled by someone else's fake smile or someone else's charm. Some people are very good at hiding who they are and blocking off their energy from other people. And also, there is this drug called hopium, which is when we're hoping for something to such an extent that it completely blurs anything else that's going on. We see this happen so much with kids and parents, with romantic relationships. And when you want something to work out so badly that you just don't, you're not seeing any of the red flags, you're just ignoring them, you're brushing them away. You no longer can see red. So Those things can still happen if you are an empath. So, what are the telltale signs that you might be an empath? One of the big ones is that if you go into a room with a lot of people, you start to become overwhelmed because you start feeling what everybody else is feeling. When you're in a room or a place where it's a lot of people who have the same focus, like a football game or a birthday party where everybody's happy and you're all like directing it towards the same person, that's okay. You know, it usually feels pretty good. It can be very uplifting. Depending on your sensitivity, it could still be overwhelming because you're feeling a lot of different people's emotions, but you generally don't feel different people's emotions as a singular thing unless you're focusing on them. And generally, we need to cultivate that. That is not necessarily that discernment is not necessarily something that we're born with. It's something that we cultivate over time. But if you're in a room and everybody is arguing, if there's any kind of chaos, things like that, it physically hurts us. It will come down to, just feeling like you're getting beat up, even if you're not the one who's in the fight, even if you're not the one who is having any kind of an issue. You will physically feel it, and it will be very draining and tiring for you. It's also very likely that you are an empath if you're in a situation where they're strangers and yet you know how people around you are feeling. Do you have a high sensitivity for danger? Like, do you, your spidey senses go off because there's some kind of danger around you and you may not be able to pick it out, or you might be able to pick it out, but nobody else seems to know that it's there. That's also a form of being empathic or being an empath. In short, being an empath is actually feeling other people's emotions, whether you want to or not. Now, the second question is, well, what do I do with that? How do I not feel what other people are feeling? How do I go out in public and enjoy myself instead of every time I go to the mall, I just want to go home and sleep for 2 days? How do I integrate with other people and be able to go out in public and not have to feel all this? Like, how do I get past it? Because for a lot of us, what it ends up being is a sense of a lot of anxiety, a lot of overwhelm, and they'll get depressed because they feel like they can't handle anything. But the truth of the matter is, once you learn how to shield and once you learn discernment, life gets a lot easier. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is discernment. Discernment means being able to tell the difference between what is you and what is other, what is coming from you and what's coming from outside. That is very useful in so many different ways. And then once you can figure out what's you versus what's out there, then you can focus on, okay, what's going on with this person, what's going on with this person, and be able to really hone in on different people's emotions that you may want to read, or maybe you need to read, like your boss or something like that. The first thing you have to do is get to know, who are you? Seems simple, doesn't it? But when you're born wide open like that, it's kind of difficult. And oftentimes when we're kids, we are in situations where we're having to be on high alert a lot. And because we're on high alert, because we have to know what's going on around us, otherwise it's not safe. Then as we get older, it's harder to put up those boundaries and to put those barriers up and feel comfortable with that, because it's a safety issue. So we need to learn how to go within ourselves and figure out what is us. One of the easiest ways to do that is meditation. And meditation does not mean that you have to sit there and be silent. There could be music, you could be dancing. There's all different kinds of meditations, and I won't get into that. I have plenty of other videos on that. When we're in meditation, then we begin to discern our own voice. How do you know if you don't know your voice? Well, one of the big ones. So, what do you want? What do you want to do? What do you see for yourself? If you cannot answer that honestly and know really what you want, you have a boundary problem. You're probably very empathic, and you probably take on other people's wants and needs. You're probably very, very good at taking care of others and being what other people need and seeing other people's needs. You're really good at that. But you also need to be good at seeing your own stuff and what you need. Because as long as you don't, then it's impossible for you to sort out what's you and what's somebody else. Another thing that most people forget about or don't mention when we talk about these subjects is that not all the voices in your head are you. What does that mean? Well, we have something called the subconscious or the unconscious. In the subconscious, we have everything gets stored, every experience that we have ever had, every experience cellularly that our parents ever had and their parents before them, going back 7 generations. From there, especially from this lifetime, we will store memories that of things that helped us or kept us safe. Your mom telling you not to do something, getting reprimanded, people telling you that you were not capable. Things like this get stored in our subconscious. And when we're in a similar situation, even though it may not seem similar to us, it is similar to our consciousness. You will hear those voices, and you need to be able to differentiate. Is that my mom talking? Was that my teacher? Was that my dad? Was that my mean aunt? And so on and so forth. So sorting through that and getting down to your own voice, what do you really want, is very important to begin the process of being able to separate yourself and your emotion from everything that is around you. Stating that and knowing that, once we can figure out our own voice, and I would say some people do it really easily, other people, it takes a lot of practice. But once you find your own voice and voice of spirit, which is your guardians and your guides, the voice of God, whatever you want to call it, the universe, that voice will be insistent, persistent, and will be neutral. That voice will never be berating. It will never call you a name. And it is always looking out for the greater good and for your greater good. So if you keep getting this push, then, listen, what is there any tone to the voice? Does this sound like somebody's diction who I know, or somebody's lexicon? Where is there the familiarity? And when it's spirit, it usually is very direct. It will be persistent, and it does not hold a lot of emotion in it. Usually it doesn't hold any emotion in it. It's just like, that you have to do something. You just feel a push in that direction. Sometimes if it's like really important that you get the message right away, spirit will yell at you. I've had that happen, but most of the time that's not the way it works. So discerning your own voice. What do I need? Who am I? What do I want? What do I want for me? Not what do I want for my family? What do I want for my parents? What do I want for my kids? What do I want for my significant other? What do I want for me? And many, many empaths cannot answer that question, at least not answer it easily. So we have to teach ourselves to look out for ourselves, because we're used to looking out for everybody else. It's part of the gift. A lot of people don't think being an empath is a gift because it can be so overwhelming and it can be very painful at times. Sometimes you don't want to know what other people are feeling because it can be hurtful or painful. But it is a gift because it helps us navigate the world in a completely different way. And we can do more, go further, and have better experiences because we can suss out what's happening around us much better than someone who is not as gifted, not as sensitive. Were you told that you were overly sensitive your whole life? Like, did you have people to, oh, you're so sensitive. Oh, when you would let somebody, like that hurt, or you would start crying, or you would say, like you don't need to be that angry, or you don't like being around angry people. That is a sensitive person, and that is an empath. And I know there are some people who say there's a difference between a highly sensitive person and an empath. Personally, I don't see a real difference there, except the terminology. So a highly sensitive person is someone who's very sensitive to their surroundings. It could be physical as well as mental and emotional, et cetera, et cetera. But empaths basically operate the same way. So a highly sensitive person is just a more secular way of saying it, as opposed to the more spiritual aspects of it. But it's basically the same thing from as far as I can tell. Let me know if I'm wrong in the comments below. Once you figure out who you are, then it's a lot easier to figure out what's coming in from outside. Something that I tell my clients all the time is when all of a sudden you're being overwhelmed with a feeling or a sensation. That's another thing that happens to empaths is like you'll walk in a room, all of a sudden you'll be angry. All of a sudden you'll feel upset. All of a sudden you'll feel overwhelmed or anxiety. And you're like, where did that come from? Don't ask, why do I feel that way? Because as soon as you say, why do I feel that way? Your brain is going to give you reasons why you feel that way. That's what the brain does. That's what the ego does. It's trying to keep you safe. So it's like, oh, you asked this question, we got to give you an answer. That's not the question they ask. The question to ask is this mine? Is this mine? If it's not, you should feel a drop in the intensity of whatever the emotion is. You may actually hear a no or get a sensation of no. And then you say, well, thank you for letting me know. You can have that back. Let's send that back from wherever it came from. And then you push the energetic away from you. It's just being conscious of it and recognizing this is not mine, so I am not going to own this. The whole reason why mob rule works and why people get in such a frenzy is because everyone has empathy to a certain extent. So when you're around a bunch of people and the energy is ramping up, just like when you're at a concert, everybody's having a great time and the energy's ramping up. It's a similar thing that happens when people are angry or upset or crying and that kind of thing. So all that energy is ramping up and everybody's taking it in. And as you're taking it in, you're filtering it and it's coming out and you're thinking it's yours and everybody's owning it. And then it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then the mob acts and reacts without any conscious thought. Very dangerous. So being an empath, one of the pluses to being an empath is that when we start feeling the energy ramp up, we can feel it. We know it's not coming from in us. And thus, we have an opportunity at that point to not take it on and to not take it in. As an empath, one of the other things that you can do is you can tell if someone is trying to manipulate you because energetically you feel it. It feels sticky. It feels icky. You can feel the hooks going in. You could feel like somebody trying to maneuver you. And it's all energetic. But the more discernment that you practice, the better you'll become at this, and the more easily you'll be able to negate somebody else's manipulations, because you see it coming from a mile away, because you could feel it. You could feel that twisting. No, I don't want that. The other thing, and I'm trying to go like a little more secular into the more spiritual, or as some people say, woo-woo. The other thing is learning how to say no. One thing that empaths do is we always want to help. We just love helping because we love the way that feels. It makes us feel good to be able to help other people and to see how we're helping other people. It builds us up, and it gives us a sense of pride, and a sense of like being loved and being loving, and it really opens things up. It's a really good feeling. It's a very positive feeling. So we always want to help others. We want to be of service. We want to give other people what they need so that they feel fulfilled, because if they feel fulfilled, we feel fulfilled, and it's awesome. However, when we do that to the point where we are beginning to injure ourselves, we need to stop. How do we do that? Learn how to say no. No is a full sentence. Feel in your body when somebody is asking you to do something or intimating that they want you to do something. Because the other thing is, when you're dealing with an empath, a lot of times people won't come right out and say what they want. They'll make it seem like, oh, well, you offered, but they will hint around at it. When you feel that, you can either say no out loud or push the energetic away. If they're not asking directly, just push it away. And you could play dumb just like they can play dumb. Just because you feel that manipulation and that they want something from you does not mean that you have to give it. Remember, no is a full sentence. No. You don't have to give them a reason why. And if they keep asking you, just no, can't, sorry, don't want to. Nope, no, no. Say it with me. No. It's really hard for empaths because we really do like supporting other people and helping other people. But we have to remember that we need to be supported also. And if the energy between you and the other person is not reciprocated, then it becomes a drain, and then it becomes unhealthy. Everybody has had that person in their life who just takes and takes and takes and takes, even if it doesn't look like that. It could be the person who they are always in upheaval. Something is always wrong. They're always asking for your advice. They're always asking for your help. And they might be very gracious about it. Oh, I can't live without you. So thank you so much. But then they get mad if you're not constantly giving. They will drop you like a hot potato as soon as you get to the point where you cannot give anymore. So just be aware of that. Be aware of people's manipulations and the way people see you. And be aware of how you see yourself, because that's a big thing too. You are worthy. You are lovable. And you do deserve as much support and nurturing as everybody else, maybe more. Now let's move into a little more of the woo-woo stuff. So the woo-woo stuff would be learning how to shield. Like, how do you protect yourself emotionally from people other than the basics of saying no and getting yourself out of situations? But you don't want to be to the point where, like, I hate to go Christmas shopping. Worst time of the year. People are crazy at Christmas time. I do not like it. But sometimes you have to go out at Christmas time. Sometimes you have to go shopping. Sometimes you have to go to a mall. It's like, oh. So when you have to do that, how do you do that without losing a piece of yourself, without coming home totally exhausted? There's a couple different ways to do that. The first is to shield. there's all different kinds of ways to shield. And anyone who has been with me for any length of time is familiar with the white light meditation. So the white light meditation is about bringing in pure, unconditional love energy from the universe, from God, from the Christ, however you want to look at it. And you bring in this energetic and you surround yourself with it. You fill yourself with it. You surround yourself with it. And that way you make sure that you have a buffer between you and everything else. And there's different ways you can imagine the shield. Some people do an eggshell where they paint the inside of the eggshell so it's really thick so nothing can get through it. Some people put mirrors on the outside so they only, like, their energy bounces right back at them. I would not recommend doing that on the daily, only because you don't know what somebody else is projecting out. If you're sending it right back, the way they're going to read it is they're going to read it as you doing that to them. So if they're very hostile and they're looking for hostility, they're going to see that from you if you're constantly mirrored. So you only want to do that on special occasion. And to specifically send energy back. You want to disperse it. You want to dismantle it. You want to transmute it to something that's useful. All these things can be done with a white light bubble around you that you can use for shielding. You can use different methods like locking your chakra system. We receive a lot of energy and a lot of input through our energy system. If you shut your energy system down and you lock it down, then things can't get through. But you also have a problem processing if you do that, especially for long periods of time. So you don't want to do that for long periods of time. But if you know you're in a situation where somebody is trying to really feed off your energy, you can just shut everything down and then they've got nothing. We talked about this a little bit when we were talking about energy vampires. And energy vampires will generally seek out empaths, just like narcissists will seek out empaths because they balance each other out. But the thing is, it's not a real balance. It's more like it's just a tug of war, just going one-sided. So you have to be careful of that. But if you know you're going to be in a situation where there are a lot of energy vampires or where you normally do start to feel really drained, one of the ways you can deal with that is through white light energy. You pull in the energy and you allow it to flow through you consistently. You set it so it flows through you consistently. So anybody trying to get energy off you, they'll be like ticks where they get so fat and then they fall off. That's basically what you're doing, is you're overloading them instead of them overwhelming you. So that's another way. One of my favorite ways, which is simple, easy, is with gemstones. Now, y'all know how much I love my gemstones. I love all kinds of gemstones. So I gathered a bunch of stuff here to be able to show you. So you have gemstones that will strengthen you. You have gemstones that will deflect negativity. And it's not always negativity that you're being overwhelmed with. It could be happiness. I mean, it could be just the sheer amount of emotional energy that is coming towards you that overwhelms you. It doesn't necessarily have to be negative. So when you're just shielding from negative energy, the positive stuff still gets through, but you're going to want to filter either way so that you know what's yours. So for a shield that nothing can penetrate, that you're only going to use if you need it at certain points of time. So see the little crystals in there? That is peridot, otherwise known as olivine when it's in this form, because this is new. Peridot is actually taken from the mantle of the earth and it's much older. It's the same crystalline structure and it is created when lava hits the ocean entry. So this is a lava rock from the Big Island of Hawaii. And yes, Pele loves me, so I get to take some. But it has the peridot right in it. The Big Island of Hawaii actually has a green sand beach, and that is all olivine. So what that particular crystal does, peridot, olivine, it's the birthstone of Leos. That stone can put a white light shield around you that nothing will penetrate. But that means you can't blast anything out either. Nothing's coming in, nothing's going out. It's like being in a suit of armor, and that's it. Your sweat is not coming out. Nothing is coming out of that. Nothing is coming in either. So, depending on what you're dealing with, like when I go Christmas shopping, I always have peridot on and have my shield going because I don't want to deal with people. I want to deal with their emotions rather during Christmas time because people are crazy. So, that's one of the biggies. Another biggie that I like is this is raw ruby. You can't really see the coloring in this light, whatnot. But raw ruby, or any ruby actually, unless it's irradiated. I was going to say irrigated. Wrong. Raw ruby is really good also for protection. It puts a white light shield around you, but it is internally permeable, which means you can push things out. You can't pull anything in, but you can push things out. So if you're like in a mood and you want to get rid of that negativity from within you, you can do that with ruby on. With peridot, it's just going to bounce right back at you because you're just completely solid. Then we have different stones that you could use to help support you when you're out and about, when you're dealing with people as an empath. I have on my throat, this is lapis lazuli. You could see lapis lazuli will have, I don't know whether I had another piece over here. I guess I don't. It has flecks of gold in it, and that's how you could tell lapis lazuli from sodalite. They look very similar to one another, but lapis is more expensive and more rare than sodalite. It's also a stronger stone. So lapis lazuli is meant specifically for spiritual protection. It protects the third eye. It protects your psychic abilities, and it helps to filter anything coming in. It will block anything that is negative or meant to harm you. It also gives you language for whatever it is that you need to say or whatever you're going through. So when you're wearing lapis, it also activates the throat so that you can express yourself better, and you also have a better understanding of what's going on. That's lapis. Then you have stones that shield and help with protection. So this is a piece of hematite, and hematite is metallic. And hematite is really good for shielding and for bouncing negativity off of you. So it gets rid of it. It just bounces it off. So it's not coming into your field. So you can't own it. Pyrite does something similar. It's also good for that. And pyrite's also good for pulling in prosperity and higher vibrations because of the gold. It's a healer, and it's also very good for like soothing you. So if you've gone out, you're really tired, you don't know what to do, you pick up a piece of pyrite and you hold it for a little while, it will help soothe that feeling or that sensation of being overwhelmed. Then, oh, you know what I did not get? I think I have one here. All right. So, two of my favorites. So, I know this one looks naughty. We have amethyst and we have citrine. Now, this is a natural citrine spirit stone, spirit quartz stone. And what these two stones do is they are natural cleansers, and they will raise the vibration of everything around it. So what citrine does is citrine creates a very high vibration and positive energy within a 6-foot radius of wherever it is. And amethyst is a little more soothing, whereas citrine is more like hyper. It's more of a pick-me-up, whereas citrine is more soothing. Citrine is also known as the stone of sobriety, which will help you to resist doing things that are not good for your health, like drinking or doing illicit drugs or anything like that. It helps you stay calm so that you do not feel the need for it. That's a whole nother discussion. Then you have stones that you can you can sink into because they're very grounding. So when you're an empath, grounding is very important. And grounding is like going deeper into your body, like feeling your body. And again, knowing yourself, knowing where you end and others begin. Number one rule of being an empath, you have to know where you end and others begin. Boundaries, good boundaries are essential. So then you have stones like this is a nice big chunk of tourmaline. And then this is a piece of obsidian. What is the difference between these two? Well, they feel a little bit different energetically. You need to go with whatever stones you feel most comfortable with, not necessarily what I'm saying to do, but go in if you have some place near you where you can actually feel the stones and touch them and see which ones you like to work with. That's what would be best for you. So I like both of these stones. Tourmaline is a really good protective stone. It actually also protects against electromagnetic pollution. So it's good to have tourmaline, black tourmaline specifically around when you're near a computer, you're on the cell phone, things like that. Black tourmaline is really good to have. Tourmaline does come in a variety of colors. It comes in pink, it comes in green, it comes in blue. So when you're working with tourmaline, the different colors do have different characteristics. Black is best for protection. Usually your darker stones are good for protection. Then you have your obsidian, and obsidian basically reflects out. So it doesn't let any negativity come in. Now, I have read online when I was looking recently, like people will mix and match obsidian and tourmaline and say that they both do the same thing, or one does one and one does the other. And then another site you go on and will say the opposite. You have to see how it feels to you. That's the way I work with my stones. Every stone, every crystal has its own personality. You want to get to know your stones and start jiving with that personality. This stone was with me. I kept it in my car for protection in my car from 1995. And it stayed in my car even when my ex had it until 2000. When did he say? 2008, 18 or 2017, I think is when he let go of my car. But it stayed in there all that time. And it stayed charged because it was something that he would handle or I will handle and put energy back into. You have to remember when you're dealing with stones that they do need to be blessed, programmed, and charged. So blessed and cleared is the first step when you get a new stone. And then you want to do that on a regular basis to keep the stone clear, because once a stone like this or any other stone that like pulls in things and keeps it away from you, but they're sucking it in to get it away from you, it will spit it back out at some point, or it will burst. They will break. And you don't want your stones to break. So just make sure you take good care of them. Then you have, this is a really dark, oh, I should have gotten my other thing, a very, very dark piece of smoky quartz. Smoky quartz is really good with It's good for protection. It's very soothing. It's very grounding. So to carry a smoky quartz with you when you're out and about, whether it's you stick it in your bra, it's in your pocket, whether you wear it as jewelry, whatever fashion you want to wear it in or have it on your person, it still works. So it's not like you have to get a certain size, a certain quality, or any of that. It's all about what you're putting into it. It gives back to you. So it's like a dog, you love it and it'll love you back. And specifically for empaths, the one stone that I would recommend that you pick up is red jasper. Okay. So these are different variations of it. Red jasper is a really strong stone. What it does is, again, it's grounding. It works with your root chakra to help you be balanced and stable. And it also invigorates you. So having a piece of this on your person is very good. It's good to have these as like worry stones, that you rub and whatnot. They're excellent for that. So the last stone that I'm going to mention is carnelian. I love carnelian. It is one of my favorites, probably because I am a Leo and I'm also a little ADD. So carnelian helps you focus. Again, grounding. It activates all your lower chakras, including your solar plexus and your sacral chakra and your root chakra. And it helps you stay grounded and balanced. It's a very soothing stone. It helps you process emotion. Many of these stones will help you process emotion, but specifically sodalite, lapis lazuli, and carnelian are three of the best for processing emotion. So that's part of what you're doing as an empath is you're processing emotion. As an empath, you're not just processing your emotion, you're processing the emotion of others. You need to be very aware, though, when it's not your emotion, which leads us back to the beginning. Know yourself, learn your own energetic, know what you want and need, and learn how to say no. Boundaries are very important. If you're looking for more in-depth information on any of this, I do have other videos on YouTube and elsewhere online, or you can work with me individually or in a group. I do have classes online also. This is Geralyn St Joseph. This was Mystery, Mystics, and Metaphysics. Come join us on Meetup. And I think that's it for today. Mahalo for joining us.